Hello, mate to Thrive Nation. Got a very unique guest. He's a light expert. He's been running a company called blockbluelight.com for many years. He's got a backstory we're going to get into, but it's really a privilege to have him on the show because he's got many, many reviews and testimonials on his product. And I've been so interested because I'm a huge believer in circadian biology. So welcome to the show, Daniel Ebbett.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Pleasure to be here and looking forward to diving into all things light and health and giving your audience some gems to take away with.
Brilliant. And I've got to give you kudos because you've got a really early there in Auckland, 6 o'clock. You've got beautiful lighting in the background for those on YouTube. Go and check it out. This guy's the light expert. He's got every single product imaginable to changing your circadian biology. And circadian biology is your day-night sleep-wake cycles is crucially important. We've had Dr. Jack Cruz on the show, so we'll link to those two episodes, our two most downloaded episodes that we've had on the podcast in 2.5 years. Can you believe it? I think I've got over 140 shows and downloaded in 133 countries. So thank you to the audience and the viewers. I really appreciate your support and your reviews. But Daniel, I want to talk about how important light is to health. Tell us about two incredible stories, testimonials, maybe a male, maybe a female, of people that use blue blocking devices, either the glasses. I've got them. We've still got the sun out here in South Africa, so I'm going to be putting them on now. But tell us two incredible stories that the audience can grab hold onto.
Wow, there's a few because we've been doing this for about 7 years, so we've had a lot. But I'll start with one that it's kind of stuck out to me. We had a testimonial come in, and it was particularly a teacher in a classroom, and they decided they had young kids. I think they're about like new entrants around 5 years old, and a lot of them just noticed they moved into a new classroom, and they obviously had new lighting in the classroom, right? So, and she just noticed their behavior was nuts. Like they were just much more agitated, and so she actually got approval from the school to put in our lighting in the classroom, and she just got hold of me and was just pretty much saying it was like a night and day difference between the attention, like everything to do with attention, to just behavior, to focus for a significant portion of that the kids changed. And I was kind of blown away that I guess it hit home a bit more that that's more common, like the standard kind of environment for most of the kids now going into another learning environment, right, where they're supposed to be there learning, and that the environment they're in is just completely destroying their ability to learn and thrive. And so that was a big one. I really like that one. And another one, probably more so we see a lot, we get a lot around just sleep and anxiety and stuff, and they're quite, there's a whole wide range there, but ones that I really like, and one was particularly around the use of red light therapy. So we also obviously look not at removing harmful spectrums, but how we can introduce beneficial spectrums of light. And particularly it was a 80-year-old male, and he had chronic pain, chronic arthritis, couldn't sleep, and a whole host of just health problems from streaming from the pain. And he wrote us an awesome testimonial after 2 months of use, saying just how he had been through so much to try and help with his health through the medical system, and this device is the one thing that's literally started to be a game changer for him. And he's like, I'm all in on the light. I'm fitting out my home with all the bulbs. I'm doing the blocking. I'm doing everything because it's just people don't really, until they experience some significant change like that, it's kind of oh no, there's no way light can have this such a profound impact on our biology and be governing it so much, when we're kind of in the mainstream just told, the way you're healthy is, eat your greens and make sure you're exercising, sort of thing.
Brilliant. And I think those are incredible stories. And I'll tell you why. It's children And then obviously the older generation as well. So it impacts every single human life, doesn't matter what age you are. So tell us a little bit more about the concentration, brain fog. I look at my Instagram reels, and those are the ones that get often a lot of views, brain fog and mental performance. Was it the flicker, do you think, from the lighting in the children's class? Was it, a fluorescent? Was it a halogen? Was it the light frequency itself? What do you think changed that class?
Well, I think yeah, it's a combination, right? When we look at the modern lighting, it's not just one thing that's causing the issues we're seeing. It's the combination of them all together. So yeah, absolutely, the flicker is a big one because what we commonly see in classrooms or commercial spaces or workplaces is the fluorescent lighting, and that has one of the worst type of flicker rates in it possible. And so just to understand what flicker is, it's what we call invisible flicker. It can be visible sometimes to the eye when you can literally see the thing flickering. That's really bad. But in most circumstances, you can't actually see it. What it is the light's turning off and on very, very quickly. So around 120 times a second. And the reason it's doing that is we have our main power sources into our homes as AC or alternating current. The reason we have alternating current is because it's got to come all the way from the substation into your home. So it's pulsed down the line, essentially. It's not a direct current source. And that wasn't really a problem with the older style lighting because that was incandescent halogen, which is a heat source lighting. That means essentially there's a filament inside the light, the power heats it up, and essentially it's producing heat and light at the same time from the filament. When you go to an LED or a fluorescent, it's more of a digital type light source. So it's LEDs are just special diodes, fluorescents are special tubes. They either have the power source which makes them emit light, or they don't have it and they're off. Now, so the power's coming in and on and off, on and off. So the light's going on and off, on and off. And a heat source lighting, well, the filament doesn't fully cool down and turn off when the electricity stops coming. So it kind of rides out that flicker. There's a little bit of flicker in it it sort of goes up and down, but it doesn't completely turn itself off and on. So the wave or the on-off variance in these new modern style lighting is significantly more, which in turn your brain does recognize that flicker. So it's sitting there trying to process an image that keeps turning off and on, off and on, off and on. What that does in the brain, it causes neurological stress, it overworks it. Because it's just constantly doing that. So that does lead to the symptoms of headache, migraines, anxiety, inability to focus, brain fog. So there's a whole host of symptoms of just what I would call constant exposure. On the complete other side of the scale where of severity is epileptic fits, right? So people that are ultra sensitive to high flickering lights, so that's probably not the low level flicker, but if we just dial it back, that's what we're all being exposed to at a low level, this constant flickering light. So that's the first one. The next one with that type of light source is the actual spectral output. So the frequencies that are coming out off that light, completely unnatural. When you look at a spectral analysis of either LED or fluorescent, it is very much stripped of all the red, yellow, and orange light. It's got a bit of green, and it's got very, very extreme high levels of blue in a very short wavelength as well, what we call high energy visible blue light, which blue light isn't bad for you, but it is when you isolate it and you don't get it in the amounts that we do in nature. So that type of light, again, will raise your cortisol. It's designed to, but it will elevate it too high in isolation. So again, high cortisol leads to high stress, high anxiety, inability to focus. It also has the ability to cause eye damage as well, and the way that it's like blue light is a high energy wavelength. It's normally balanced with the red, which is more regenerative wavelengths. So blue light is more oxidative stress and cell damage, cell breakdown. Red is the opposite. So in nature, they're balanced. Like red light is the antidote to the blue light. Indoors, we strip out all the beneficial wavelengths, only leave the damaging ones. So it starts to actually cause eye strain, headaches as well.
Brilliant.
So yeah, so it's not just one, but the symptoms of both of them are very similar, so they're kind of compounding on top of each other.
Just well articulated there. And I know that your website is full of science and blogs and that. Are there research articles on the flicker, on the central nervous system? You know, I've been in practice for over 23 years as a physician. We've seen central nervous system hypersensitivity syndrome. You know, people's nervous systems are running really, really high. They get a little extra more stimulation. They get a lot of symptoms. And we've seen that a lot of that. And we've had to sort of calm the whole environment down. But let's talk a little bit about that flicker rate, how important it is, and is there research on your site that people can go to?
Yep, absolutely. We've got research on Flickr as well. So on our website, we've actually got a whole page on science. I created this page because there's a bit conflicting opinions and out there in the world where people try to say like, oh, hey, blue lights, you know, there's no research on it. It's not a thing, sort of thing. So I went out and just was like, okay, well, we talk all about this. I talk about the research, and I'm always going out there and like nitpicking and giving studies to give over. So I was like, I'm going to grab and group them all, talk about them all. So we've got a whole page. We don't have every study on there. I've just picked ones that are good and modern and recent and published by a good journal as well. So yes, we've got studies on Flickr. There was one actually done in 2019, which was an awesome study, and it was actually looking at its impact on, essentially just looking at LED flicker and its impact on health. Yeah, but I think we've got maybe 3 or 4 really good studies on our website just looking at flicker.
Okay, brilliant. That's incredible, you know, because I think you know, what I love about it is the word doctor is from the Latin docere, which means teacher. And so I can see from your website, you're very committed to teaching and empowering people and educating people. And I think that is definitely the first step to change is awareness. So kudos to you. You can go check it out at blockbluelight.com in terms of Flickr. And then let's talk about illumination. You know, the audience might know a lot about malnutrition. You know, Jack Cruz and the latest Andrew Huberman, who's hitting it out the park from a light perspective. Malillumination in many aspects, in my view, or a disrupted circadian rhythm is as important, if not more important, than the food you eat and the information you feed yourself with regards to nutrition. So maybe give us a little bit of a description on malillumination, and also your 80-year-old who got red light and was obviously, I say to people, you're red light deficient. You know, often a lot of people get the blue. Blue's not bad. It just has to be balanced in the sunlight. You know, 42% is red and infrared. People don't realize actually, you know, that the window itself, unfortunately, cuts the red light and the infrared, allows the blue light through. That's why sitting behind a window and indoors causes damage. And correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe expand on malillumination.
Yeah, malillumination, you kind of almost alluded to what it was. Essentially, it's a deficiency in light. You know, we talk about deficiencies in nutrition, but light itself assimilates very similar things to what nutrition does and vitamins do. So, yeah, malillumination is essentially, it is a big problem because we all live, most of us live indoor lifestyles. We work indoors, we've got to make a living indoors. And when we look at the type of light or the levels of light we get indoors, and this is particularly around the daytime and what light does for us during the day. So there's some key neurotransmitters and hormonal processes that happen under full spectrum sunlight or full spectrum light that a lot of people are getting deficient in because they're staying indoors a lot. So if we look at particularly one of them, there's a lot of pathways, but one of the biggest ones that we see, which is very, very becoming more and more common, is SAD, or seasonal affective disorder. Now, this used to be more of a seasonal disorder, depressive disorder from a lack of light. So we'd commonly see it in winter. You commonly see it in places like the United Kingdom where it's bad weather and low light. It's actually getting to the point where it's not a seasonal thing anymore. It's more just happening year round because people aren't really getting outside and getting any natural light. And what that is actually, so blue light in balance out in nature, full spectrum light, when that comes into the skin and the eyes, that actually is a signal pathway to create dopamine and serotonin. And when we don't get enough light, the neurotransmitters are not at their optimal level. dopamine reward kind of pathway. The reward make you feel good, make you feel happy, make you feel motivated. That starts to drop down, so you don't feel so good, you don't feel energized. Same as serotonin, that heavily regulates our mood and our energy levels. So that's why, if you're not getting outside and you're not getting that good natural light and you are mal-illuminated, you are going to start feeling very down, very unmotivated. So that's why it's important not to sit there and go, oh, I've heard blue light's bad for me, I need to remove it from my life, because
Yeah.
you will actually start to simulate the effects of SAD. If you chucked on blockers, night blockers during the day and did all these things to really eliminate it, it's about the context of it, like how are we getting it, and how we, what type of spectrums are we getting in at what time of the day as well.
Mm.
So it's a very important thing. And then when we look also at the other spectrums like infrared light and getting infrared light during the day. So infrared, there's been research now looking at near infrared light coming onto the skin and its ability to significantly increase serotonin,
Yeah.
significantly. Now, serotonin, we kind of talked about, it's involved in mood regulation, but a very, very interesting thing is the precursor to melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, is assimilated through serotonin. So if you are not getting the right type of infrared light during the day from the sun, and you have suboptimal levels of serotonin, but then you do all the perfect things at night, you block all the blue light, you use all the lighting, you do everything, well, you're going to still have low melatonin because you don't have any of the raw material to make it. So it's very important about what you're doing during the day, getting the right type of lights during the day, ensuring that infrared light is in your environment. Now, there are tools and hacks if if you just literally can't get outside, because it is difficult for some people these days. It is very, very difficult in the modern world. If we need to be indoors, we can't control the light environment in the office and things, but there are tools, and I'm sure we can get into a bit of that around what
Mm.
we can do to more closely align to the types of light we're supposed to be receiving.
Brilliant. And let's move on to blue blocking glasses, because I think you've got four. We've been using blue blocking glasses at the practice, and it made you thrive for many, many years, especially at the practice, because it just was very au fait with the science very early on. But you've got a clear lens, and a lot of people just wear the clear lens. And I say to them, look, at night, you really need that orange red lens. They battle with that. I think talk about the nanometers. I did look at your site, like your red and orange, I think from 400 to 550 nanometers. But then you've got the yellow and amber. I'm not really used to that. I'm wearing sort of this yellow orangey now because I really struggled to podcast with the red and orange. It's sort of a difficult one, but at least blocking some of the lights, maybe say at the sort of 400 to 500 mark. But give us a little bit of a background to why the different sort of colored lenses, why they're important. Also, possibly what people can do with regards to which are the most important, because budget is always a concern. I'm at Made to Thrive. The red and orange are probably the most important to use, especially at night. Once the sun has set, as much as you can to keep your world yellow and orange. But give us sort of a background on the different lenses.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, over the years we've sat there and we've kind of looked at all these different situations of different light filtering and blocking we need to do, and created different lens types based on that. So we do have 4 different types now. We've got 2 devoted to daytime and then 2 around nighttime. So I'll quickly discuss the daytime ones. We have what we call our clear lens. It's technically not crystal clear, because if it was, it would really not be doing a hell of a lot, which is a lot of the ones we do see in the marketplace now, like Amazon and all these, cheap
Yeah.
sort of $20 pairs. Ours are a bit different. So there is a little bit of there is pigments inside there that literally absorb the light as it passes through. Those are really good for the daytime as a set of computer glasses. They look like a normal set of glasses. So if someone's like conscious of how they look and they don't want to draw attention to themselves, these are a really good option for the daytime where you can't control your lighting, you're on screens. They're going to reduce your blue light down by 50%. But what's actually important is not just they're going to reduce your blue light down. That's very a generic way of looking at it. We need to look at the specifics. We actually need to look at what frequencies of blue light are coming off your screen and your LED light, and what are you being exposed to from an artificial source. And when we look at blue light, there's a range. It's measured in nanometers from 400 to 500 nanometers. It's a very short, narrow spike that we actually are getting from these devices and digital sources. So it's around the 455 nanometer mark. There's a very, very sharp, big spike in it. So re really, you need a set of glasses that are actually going to reduce the 455 and around that area down. Most of the stuff around these clear lenses, they've got a basic coating, reflective coating on the outside that can only normally reduce blue light up to 430 nanometers. It actually can't get past that. The reflecting technology just doesn't allow it. So that's where you need to use something like ours, which has got melanin pigments inside the lenses. They actually absorb the light as it comes through. So that those ones will drop that 455 spike by 50%. So that's a really good option for most people working indoors, working under screens a lot, wanting to help the eyes, eye strains, headaches, dry eyes, just and just allowing them to focus. Now we've got to step up from that. That's our yellow lens. That is a more optimal option. The problem with that, I guess, is people are a bit conscious about how they look in them potentially. So they might be in a social setting or a corporate environment, and it's just not suitable for them. That's where the clear ones is a better option. But if you're a biohacker and you don't really care, or you work from home, like you want the best, these will reduce or eliminate that blue light spike completely. So it just drops it down to zero. But then from 455 nanometers up to 500, it's actually allowing all the blue light through. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. We're eliminating the massive spike completely that we're being exposed to from these unnatural sources, but then we're allowing what would be is the more natural light in the room of that blue light past, which actually is controlling our circadian rhythm, our serotonin, dopamine pathways, is still coming through. So they're really good for people also who are like very, very sensitive to light, have migraine attacks, although and just yeah, they don't do well, or they're ultra sensitive to that light. So those are really good options there. Then we move to the nighttime. Nighttime's a bit different, so we need to eliminate blue light completely. Any signal of blue light coming into your eyes and potentially on the skin, which we can talk about later, will essentially, in some way, shape, or form, will send a signal of daytime to the brain. So even if there was 5% coming through to your eyes, it's suboptimal. Your brain's going to kind of go, well, it's designed to understand that the only natural source of blue light is the sun. If I'm still getting any blue light into my eyes, the sun is still up. So we really need to eliminate it. We initially brought out our redder type lens, so that blocks 100% of blue light and green light up to 550 nanometers. So green light actually starts at the 500 nanometer range and runs through to 570. Now, why did we block the green? So there was a piece of research that came out in 2001, and it looked at pretty much every frequency of light and its level of melatonin disruption. And what that study concluded was that the peak melatonin disruption happened at 464 nanometers, so just past midway of the blue spectrum, but it was a big bell curve essentially. So on the way down of that curve, there's hit the 500, and there was still a whole bunch more of melatonin disruption happening right through into the green. So to a lesser degree, but certainly still having an impact. So when we first created our night lens, we said, well, if we want it to be optimal and be removing all the frequencies of light that we really shouldn't be exposed to at night, it needs to block 100% of blue and green light from 400 to 550 nanometers. So that's what we did, and it works extremely well, like extremely well. Sometimes if you put them on too early, you're falling asleep on the couch a bit early, but they work very well. And then because we've been doing this for a number of years now, obviously we've taken in a lot of feedback. We've had thousands and thousands of people use them, and we did notice a common trend in these different types of people that are buying the glasses for different reasons. So you've got probably people like you and me and some of your patients and stuff that are like hardcore biohackers. They know that this is the science. I need this to get the best result, right? So they love the red lenses. They'll use them. But then you've got the people maybe that they're skeptical. They're not too sure. They're not really into health as much, mate. But they've been told this might help. and they chuck a set of the red lenses on. They're like, oh no, I can't do this. It's everything's,
Mm.
I can't
Sorry.
see,
Yeah.
can't watch my TV show anymore.
Mm.
And because what we were finding is that group of people would go, they'll try them and be like, nah, and they'd just send them back, and then they'll go back to wearing nothing. And I'm like, well, surely there's some middle
Mm.
ground where we can still help them. Let's say we don't need to be the most optimal, but hey, like it's still going to have a significant impact. So
Mm.
we created the lighter amber lens, which still blocks 100% of blue light. We just stop at the 500 nanometer mark, and we allow that little bit of green through. Makes it a lot lighter, makes it a bit more usable in the evening, so you can actually simulate a bit more color through it. And that's the other option. So that suits people, yeah, that just want a bit more color. Sometimes, like working at night, it can be a bit difficult. Sometimes we do
Mm.
want it, or you can actually use both, and you can go early evening amber, later evening red. Like, I don't say that's a necessary thing, but
Mm.
that's if people are getting really into their
Yeah.
dialing it in. But a question you asked is like, around people on a budget, what's the best thing
Mm.
for them? What can they do? And I would say the biggest impact is getting a set of the night ones. Yeah, like obviously either option, if you can handle the red ones, that's gonna, if you just one pair of glasses, that's my
Mm.
pick. It's gonna have the biggest impact on your circadian rhythm and your overall health. And then if you did have, I just would stress to not use those during the day, because we get people that are like, oh, I just want one pair that I can kind of use all the time, and,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Sure.
oh no, I don't want, yeah. And it's sort of like, well, don't, like, you're doing more harm than good if you
Yeah.
wear those during the day. So just I stress it so much, like, just use them. Then just there isn't such thing as a perfect pair for day and night based on our requirements of different light.
Mm. Yeah, brilliant. And most of my clients, execs that use the orange, within half an hour they are so drowsy and so sleepy. And I say to them, that's a good sign, because you just realize the impact of light and how important it is. So that's fundamentally important. In terms of prescription, if people have a prescription, do you have an option for them to send in a prescription so they can have the lens according to their own, unique needs?
Excuse me. Yes, we do. We do. We have a full optics lab now at our disposal, so
Mm.
we can do any prescription. We can also do any. So we have like a send in your frame service. So if you don't like our frames and you're
Yeah.
like, I really like this frame, it suits me really well, I
Yeah.
fit it, I know it fits. You can send us your frame and we'll fit our lenses into them.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that's,
Wow. That's
yeah.
brilliant. Cool. Let's move on. In terms of sunglasses, I know there's sort of some discrepancy. I'm not a believer in sunglasses. I'd love your take on this. Just from an ancestral point of view, I don't have any more sunglasses, although sometimes when I'm on the water skiing in the Med or something, I'll use a sort of family member sunglasses for the glare. But, yay or nay to sunglasses, sometimes you're not sure if people are trying to sell sunglasses. They believe in blue blocking glasses during the day, and at night, the necessaries that we've just spoke about, but then they also recommend sunglasses. What is your view there?
Strong no, and I can kind of allude to that a little bit. Yeah, so um, yeah, similar to you, like in um certain circumstances, yes, you would wear sunglasses. That may be driving due to glare from unnatural objects coming back at you, so it's obviously a safety factor. But really, apart from that, any kind of glare off the water, like you said, there really isn't a need for them.
Mm.
And I have seen a little bit of an uptick in what you said, like sort of like health companies sort of coming up with these like bit of a marketing angle on like healthy sunglasses. And yeah, I think I've actually looked into it. And I was like, is it possible to actually have a pair of healthy sunglasses? And the
Mm.
reality is no, based on like it's filtering light that should be coming into your eyes.
Mm.
And I actually did a test. I actually bought a pair
Wow.
recently. I won't name the companies or
Sure.
anything. It was a health company though, and promoting other tools and stuff like red light therapy and stuff, which is good for us, but then also promoting sunglasses. Like, this is
Yeah.
very odd, but they had a very unique marketing angle from it. So I bought a pair, and I actually compared it, because I've got a light spectrometer like about a $3,000 device. I can measure frequencies of light, what's passing through lenses, what isn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I've got a pair of Ray-Bans.
Mm,
I just want to see the difference, like, because they talk about like, oh, these little beneficial red light through, and
mm,
they're so much better for you. And the crazy thing I found was it just did they were exactly the same. Like it was
mm,
the same. Like they're not lying to you, but they're they're not telling you the full story that your existing sunglasses do let red light through as well. um,
mm,
because sunglasses, the majority of the frequencies they filter down and block, they block UV light.
mm,
And then they filter down blue light significantly. So when I talked about simulating SAD, well, you can do that with sunglasses when you're outdoors because you're getting a low level of light
mm,
through, and over time that lowers your serotonin, lowers your dopamine down.
mm,
You start feeling tired. You don't feel great. So yep, no, and then the argument with sunglasses is like, oh, I need to wear them. It's just too bright outside. Like I can't handle the
yeah.
brightness. And what I tell people is the reason it's too bright outside is because you
So-
wear sunglasses. You've
exactly.
created this vicious cycle, right? You need to, that's why I try and convince my wife and family, like you need to break the cycle and at least like, okay, we'll just go outside for an hour today, or even half an hour, and then let's try and just slowly increase it. Like I can't remember the last time I really wore sunglasses. I just have a pair in the car for the occasion when I'm on a long distance drive, and apart
Yeah.
from that,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
sure. And I took me 6 months to wean myself off sunglasses. I'm a long distance runner. I run over 40,000 kilometers on the road in the last 28 years. It took me 6 months to wean off, and I did it very slowly because my eyes were so sensitive when I was out there. So I think people just got to understand it. It's a continuum. It's a journey. Don't change things drastically. It's like people changing their diets drastically, then changing their lights drastically. A lot of these
Mm.
drastic changes are not good for the body to assimilate the different environment. So, okay, good to hear about the sunglasses, the prescription, your devices in terms of flicker, education. Let's look at your red light therapy devices. A lot of them out there contain LEDs. I went to Australia in 2019, just before the pandemic, and trained as a geobiologist with a company called GeoVital to measure all these electrical fields, electromagnetic fields, as well as, RF, high frequency fields. And I tell the community that the amount of stimulation we get in one day is equivalent to someone in the 1400s got in their whole lifetime. So that's how much noise and stimulation we're getting in a single day. Tell us about your red light therapy devices. And I know there's a whole bunch that comes out of China that is not good, with high frequency. I've measured these things on the body. What sort of distinguishes your products, and do you use an incandescent bulb? The sauna that I've got here is from a company called Sauna Space that is 100% no EMFs at all. It's an incandescent bulb as well. It gives mid and low infrared. So tell us about your story and your red light therapy devices.
Yeah, sure. So we've got we've moved into red light therapy we've been doing this for about 3 years now. And yeah, I went down the rabbit hole a long time ago. I bought a device probably like 5.5 years ago, and really started to see the benefits. And when I start to see benefits with something, I really need to research it more.
Mm.
And when I started to research it, I was like, well, I'm going to be here all day. There's over 6,000 studies on PubMed around the use of light therapy and what it does. And but yeah, I got very fascinated in using LED technology. Like we've been doing lighting and LED for a while, and we've looked at obviously all the issues with LED and how can we manipulate it and change it. So the benefits of LED is you can get very, very specific on the frequencies you emit from it. So like the incandescent, like the sauna space, they're awesome. I love those type of things, but they're very, very slightly different in how they work. So they've got the mid and the near as a broad range. They're not really narrowing in on specific frequencies at very high radiance based on. And then when we look at a lot of research, there's very specific frequencies that are very bioactive in the body, into the mitochondria specifically. So we really started to look at that and look at putting specific frequencies into LED panels. So we do a combination of 50% of them in red, and then 50% of them near infrared frequencies, but very, very specific. So in our latest generation panels now, we put in mostly, so in the red frequencies, we put in 630 nanometers and 660 nanometers, mostly in the 660 nanometer range, a bit of 630 now because there's a lot of research around the benefits of that. So particularly the red, those red frequencies interact on the skin layer. So very, very, very beneficial to skin health, blemishes, fine lines, wound healing, bit of hair growth. There's even benefits on there.
Mm.
But anything really to do with the skin, it really helps. So it has a lot of use case now in the kind of the beauty industry and anti-aging. And then the near infrared, we use mainly 850 nanometers, but we've also started to include 810 and 830 nanometers as well. And those will penetrate into the body up to 3 inches in. And so that is heavily uptake by the mitochondria. It will help the mitochondria produce ATP, which is essentially our energy currency, more efficiently.
Yeah.
So if you can produce ATP, the cellular regeneration can happen a lot more efficiently and happen, so that can really upregulate healing. And so depending on where the light's being shined, depends on what the benefits you get. So, brain, if it's shining on the brain, it really helps with brain conditions, brain health. If you're shining on the thyroid, if you're shining on a tissue or joints, it has a lot of benefits there. So I guess, and then what you've talked about, there's a lot of issues though, where you've got flicker as one issue again with the LEDs, and then you've got the EMFs as a big one. So you've got these very large panels with a lot of moving parts. There's fans, there's power, there's drivers, and you've got to be very concerned about the net effect of standing next to one of these panels, right? So you're like, okay, I'm going to hop in front of this panel because it's got all these benefits.
Yeah.
And you're 3 inches in front of it and you're getting smashed with electric and magnetic fields. Well, what was the net effect on the body? Did you come away healthier, or did you come away, So
Exactly.
these are, and that's things that people potentially aren't looking at when they're buying these. The marketing and everything's like, these are awesome, but then like, has the company actually taken the time to develop the panel in a way that's not going to have these fields? And it can be done. It's just a cost. It is a cost thing, and it's an awareness and making sure. So, we have all our own meters here. Like I've got EMF meters, tri-field meters, and then we've got flicker meters. We've got spectral meters. So we do a lot of our testing. We've got our own internal team that works with a manufacturer constantly. So we make sure that we're using high-end drivers, so we don't have any flicker in it. And then again, the drivers which are driving the LEDs, you need to make sure they're not emitting really high levels. Particularly, we're not too concerned about RF unless you're putting RF into them. So some companies literally are putting Bluetooth and RF, so you can like connect the panels wirelessly and stuff. I'm just like, no, like, what are you doing? Like, so we have hardwired cables between the panels if you want to connect them together. So there's no RF. And then in terms of the magnetic and electric fields, it really just comes down to the internal componentry and how it's been wired and the type of actual drivers you're using. So it's not like, we don't certainly market that there's no EMFs, because that's not possible in a AC powered panel or device. It's the key is we look at it and go, at the treatment area, is the level safe or next to none? And so at 3 inches, they're essentially almost nil, and then at 6 inches, there's no detectable levels, which is what you want. So if you're at that 3 to 6 inch mark, you kind of know you're going to be sitting there, you're taking in that light, and you're not getting overexposed to unnatural frequencies of EMFs. The other things to look at with red light therapy is we kind of the wavelengths, making sure, if we're looking at specifically, when I say red light therapy, I should say like the LED red light therapy panels, because when you're looking at the more of the sauna space bulbs, that's more of a broad spectrum infrared. So you're gonna get exposure to all of them and over the whole spectrum. With these, you want to look at the specific wavelengths and look at, okay, what ones what ones have they put into the panel? Are they ones that do have a lot of backing and research behind them? So the ones I discussed that we put in there, they're the most common ones that we see in research, and so have been used in the trials and studies to show those benefits. The next thing to look at is irradiance. And so irradiance is a measure of light intensity. So it's not only what are the wavelengths, but like, what's the intensity of those wavelengths? Because there's a lot of gimmicky kind of devices on the market now, like wraps and I've seen hats and all sorts of things, and they've got very, very small. They've kind of got the same kind of level of power that you've just got from your standard lighting in them, but they're calling it red light therapy because it's got those wavelengths. But it's simply just not producing enough light energy to stimulate the therapeutic effect. So you really want to look at the actual irradiance output. And normally a giveaway sign is if the device is thin, it doesn't have any fans running on the back of it. It's pretty low powered. Like most of ours have got, like our biggest one's got like 10 fans just to keep the thing cool because it's actually pushing out a lot of power.
Yeah.
And the benefit, you need to be looking at that irradiance figure, and it's measured in milliwatts per centimeter squared. And normally you're wanting to looking, most of the research points to it being at least 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared. And when you go over that, so I think our biggest one is at 160, that just lowers the amount of time you need to spend in front of it. So so if you can get in a higher level of intensity of light, you don't need to spend as much time in front of it, which is actually a really good thing because then you get more compliance in using it. If I told you need to go and stand in front of this device and use it for an hour a day, you might not use it. But if I said, hey, you've got to only do 10 minutes a day and you're going to get all these benefits, well, then you're going to get more uptake of it. So that's why we like to see really high radiance devices, because then it's just the compliance is just much easier. Like myself, I'm a busy person, but I can always devote a 10 to 20 minute session every day on it.
Brilliant. And any sort of risks? I mean, there's some research, I've been Greenfield on my show, talk about red light therapy on the testicles, helping testosterone. Is that sort of myth or is that real? And what are the risks with sort of red light therapy and what should people be aware of?
Yeah, the testosterone one's an interesting one. So we actually sent a doctor in the UK one of our panels, and he wanted to do he wanted to use red light therapy. We've actually done a YouTube video on it. It's really awesome, actually. He did all his bloods beforehand, and then he used the panel for 2 months, and then he did his bloods after. And the interesting thing was, like, from a testosterone point of view, yes, he absolutely saw an increase in his testosterone, but the rest of his bloods didn't really change, and people were like really disappointed by it. But the interesting to point out there was, like, all his bloods were really optimal to start with. So the discussion point was, like, if we did see a change, that would be of concern, right? Because then it would be elevating everything to unnatural levels, which you don't really want to do, right? Like, so yeah, it's quite an interesting video because there's a lot of discussion in there. Like, well, this was a waste of time. I was like, not really, because it's but yeah, in terms of that, yep, there definitely is some research on using it on the testicles. The concerns with red light therapy, it is relatively safe therapy to use. There's not too much contraindications out there because it's not a crazy therapy using different frequencies that aren't natural to us. As long as the device is safe and it's low EMF, it's going to, it's relatively safe for us to use. The one things we need to be concerned of is they are the high power ones in the eyes. You just so there's a lot of, like, it's interesting. There's mixed information out there. Oh, is it damaging to the eyes? Isn't it, sort of thing? So when you look at the research, red and infrared light is actually very beneficial to the eyes, but you've just got to be careful because that at that intensity, that's where it's like, well, should the eyes be getting hammered with, like, extremely bright light? So we like to say, yeah, well, get it into your eyes, but don't sit there staring right into the LEDs. It's the heat, and the heat, if there's a bit of heat getting into the iris, that actually is not good for them as well. But yeah, as a whole, like, there's very little reason or things to say that, hey, you can overdose on this or it's like there's a point of diminishing returns with it. Like, you obviously wouldn't want to sit there and go, oh, 10 minutes is good, so an hour is going to be better, because that's certainly not the case.
Okay, good. Brilliant. Maybe just we're coming to the end of the show, but finishing off, like, how important, the circadian rhythm is, getting out, getting morning sunlight. There's a lot of sort of discrepancy. Should you, on a sunny day, get 5 minutes, not, directly into your eye staring into the sun, but is it 5 minutes, cloudy day, 20 minutes? We got Andrew Huberman, the Jack Cruisers of the world, having a look at how important it is to get outside, get a lot of sunlight, which is perfectly balanced, as we said, with the blue and the red, and then shutting down those light frequencies is best at night, using candles and, diminishing sort of the blue lights, keeping it low as well. low light is better than upper light when it comes to the eyes. So maybe anything we've missed there that sort of people can do from a sort of a daily routine or weekly routine?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing I always say, and it's the biggest impact and it's free, is first of all, yeah, is like try and set a routine to get outside in the morning. That first morning light into the eyes is going to anchor your circadian rhythm. It's gonna send that signal to your brain. It's daytime. It's going to clear out any melatonin still in the system that's keeping you drowsy. It's going to naturally bring up your cortisol levels, which we want a cortisol awakening response in the morning. It's supposed to come right up. That's all triggered through light. So if you get up in the morning and you don't go, you just stay into a lower lit artificial environment. You may look at your phone screen first thing in the morning. That's a big sharp hit of blue light. It probably automatically tells your brain it's like solar noon, right? So it hasn't undergone those natural processes of what we should be exposed to. So it's the number one thing to do, and it's free. It's like some people think, oh, what's the device? What's the thing I need to buy to get? It's like, yeah, it's the simplest one, but the consistency and the routine, because our circadian rhythm is entrained, right? So it loves to be entrained and get into that rhythm. So if you do it consistently, don't sleep in on the weekends, get up, it starts to create that day night cycle, right? So
Yeah.
That's number one thing for me.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Daniel Ebbett, declaring favor and blessing over you. You're courageous. You've got an incredible calling. Blockbluelight.com. What a site. Lots to learn there. They've got the science. So many blogs. I don't know. It's like 100 blogs or something. This man has committed his life to really sort of changing people's lives. So thank you so much, and just really appreciate who you are. Let's maybe have a chat now and just talk about South Africa and Africa, how we can get your services into Africa, much needed Africa. But thank you so much, Daniel Ebbett.
Thanks, Steve. Cheers.